Me. Yeah. True leaders do, you know? Mrs. Puri, that's how it works.
Good Lord.
Joseph's favorite math teacher.
Heated.
Good evening, and thank you for being patient with us. Unfortunately, executive went a little longer, and we're going to have to go back into it after the meeting. So we apologize in advance. The public has been duly informed of this meeting in accordance with Chapter 231 of the Public Laws of 1975 by posting at least 48 hours in advance a notice on the bulletin boards in Stevenson and Churchill schools, a notice to the township clerk, and a notice to the Herald and Progress News. With that being said, please join us for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, I'll start with the president's report. It'll be quick. There's just two things I'd like to just mention. I don't know if for those of you who are at home watching or for those of you that are here, you had an opportunity to see the recent press about West Essex High School and how it ranked in the state of New Jersey. I just want to congratulate the superintendent, Damian Machochi, Principal Dunleavy, everyone up there. They're obviously doing a fantastic job. And the reason why I thought it was important to bring it up is because their test results, which I think were in the 30s, correct? They place somewhere in the 30s. But if you dig a little deeper and you look at actual public schools, you'll see that Fairfield is sitting right along 5th or 6th highest ranking public school in New Jersey. And the reason I'm bringing it up is because I think it's a true testament to what our current superintendent has done up there in years past, because you do not get that kind of ranking with the director of curriculum that replaced Mr. Gupta in just 2 or 3 months. So I just thought it was very apparent and obvious that the board had to recognize how great the high school is doing. And Mr. Gupta, for all you've done up there to get them where they are, I want to thank you on behalf of having a middle school 8th grader who's going into freshman, and just to say how excited we are to have you here and know what you're going to do for us in, you know, the years to come is very exciting, and we're thankful and congratulations, because a lot of your success, a lot of their success is attributed to you.
Thank you.
So congratulations. One other thing in president's report, I had a past board president approach me about a week and a half ago to let me know that in front of Churchill School, believe it or not, I don't know if there's a picture up there, Will, if you have a picture of it, in front of Churchill School, years ago was a fundraiser, and it's actually right outside of our flagpole area. And I guess they did a paver fundraiser years ago where people in the community donated money and they had their names subscribed in a brick paver. And they brought it to my attention, and to be honest with you, having children in the district and out and you know, one at Churchill, I never knew that it was even there. I actually thought it was just a bunch of trees in front of our flagpole. So what I did is I reached out to a local landscaping company who who's wonderful, Mike Manning from Manning Landscaping. And he worked closely with the school and an anonymous donor who donated the boxwoods and all of the mulch. And we actually worked on it over the break. And you can go to the new pictures. That's what it looks like now. So if you go to a before and after picture, this is a true representation of what the front of Churchill School should look like, and Stevenson. I think we should take pride in our schools. Our students should take pride into where they go. I can't thank Manning Landscaping and Mike Manning enough for donating the labor and for the anonymous donor who donated the mulch and the boxwoods. We are very grateful and appreciative. I think it changed the whole dynamic of the front of the school. I think it looks absolutely amazing. And it definitely paid homage to the board members that were in office, many, many years ago who initiated this fundraiser program. And it actually sparked the Board of Education's first fundraiser, which we are going to be working closely with. Denise Caffone is going to give us all the information that the town's used in the past, and we're going to do a fundraiser in the spring. We think it's going to be very exciting. I think we're going to make some money for the schools, and it's also going to change the appearance of things, which is great. So congratulations to all involved, and I think the pictures speak for themselves. It looks great. With that being said, I'd like to move things on to our superintendent's report.
I'm going to use a lot of my time for the budget presentation, which we're going to start, but I did want to thank Anthony. Don't think for a second that I did not tell the board that when they got the scores back, which were last scores, do not give the new person credit. Don't forget. But if the scores dropped, it's definitely the newbie. But I do appreciate that. And just something else on the beautification. It's the beginning, because we all agree as we walk around, there's things you just don't notice and you kind of get accustomed to. So as we walk the grounds in different areas, it's just amazing that we can do things like this. And we have a tight budget, and we have a community that will step up and donate, and that didn't cost us a thing. And if you pass by Churchill now, it's a beautiful entrance. And as we walk through, you're going to see that process. We are going to focus on beautification, and we have a gardening club that can now participate and help us do some things. So you're going to start seeing those things. And again, it doesn't take a lot in terms of the budget, but it does take the care of the community and the care of the staff here, and they're thrilled about it. So just coming in, the Churchill staff seeing that, it's nice. They weren't expecting it. It was like a surprise. So thank you to Manning, and again, hopefully you'll see more things like that as we go, because we do want to take pride in it. And again, you get accustomed to seeing things and you don't really look at it closely. And that was something that I think I passed every time. Didn't even realize that there were bricks there donated with people's names. So great job with that, and it really does look beautiful.
Just to touch on what Ryan said, I believe he placed the boxwoods in a position where the gardening club can plant annuals in between, and every year he's agreed to do different things. So during Thanksgiving, maybe mums, or it's going to look nice. It's going to bring some color, and like I said, it's nice to have, and we're grateful for all involved.
All right, well, start. All right, we're going to tag team a little bit here.
Some of the text pieces of it, and I'll go into the financial piece. So welcome to the 25-26 budget presentation. And it should be so first thing I'd like to do is just introduce the Board of Education members. I think that's some people don't know how much about it. It's an elected position. It's all volunteer. It commands a lot of time, and the borough is very fortunate to have board members who work tirelessly and try to do the best job for the residents and students of Fairfield. The board is broken up into separate committees, and one of the committees is the Finance Committee with Mr. Feedy and Mr. DePascal are on, and they were integral in helping with the budget preparation. They were there from the beginning, and a lot of their input is what you're going to see tonight.
All right, thanks. You're going to say, we're really, really proud of this budget. And kudos to Wally. He's done a tremendous job. He knew the constraints we were up against. He knew the priorities of this district. We had board goals, we had district goals, and you're gonna see a budget that just keeps everything of importance in line. Not to say it wasn't tough. As you know, we have had to make some tough cuts, and if you're watching the news, you see districts making huge amounts of cuts right now that I'm sure are devastating. So it still is difficult. We did have to sacrifice for this, but as you'll see, it's a budget that I'm very, very proud of, and it emphasizes teaching and learning. So just a reminder to start off. So our district goals, we had 2 goals we've been working on, and these will probably be continuous because they're so important. Changing the culture and climate, making sure it's positive and encouraging to everyone and supportive. And then the big one that we just were talking about with scores is increasing student growth and achievement. That's always going to be at the forefront. So this budget goal not only is aimed at supporting those district goals, but it provides the best possible educational experience for the children. And that could be in terms of anything. And anything your kids will go through and they experience at school, we want to have a positive impact on that. So we're going to go into just a little bit of details on that. And of course, that last piece, which has gotten a lot of other districts in trouble, is doing that with the utmost diligence and watching where we spend the money. We would love to do a lot of things, but we really have to focus on the things that have the biggest upside that won't require as much capital and funds. So here are some of the things that, of course, we focus on. Safety and security, number 1. We want to maintain all of that. Health and wellness of our students, that goes right in line with the safety and security of our students. But some of the other things that are constant. Classroom technology, we are always going to be upgrading. This year, we were lucky enough to have a grant from the foundation that we got Promethean board, so that kind of spread up the process, but there are a lot of other technology needs in the district. Major facilities improvement, which we've talked about. Again, Wally has brought up, the finance committee has brought up, we're going to need a new boiler, a server upgrade, which will be happening. We're looking at upgrading the playgrounds for our students. And here's the key, especially for someone who has the educational background. It was extremely important that we maintained all of our academic programs. The last board meeting I mentioned our autism program. So we're talking about special ed, our general education programs. We're fortunate enough to have a gifted talented program, which a lot of districts do not have. We have, of course, our RTI programs, our social emotional learning, character education. That all costs money. Those are presentations, those are trainings, those are programs that you have to invest time and money in. So maintaining all of that was a key. Extracurricular clubs and activities, that's all in this budget. And here are a few that just really jumped out at me, and I've talked about it in chats with parents. Anecdotally, we've had discussions. It's one thing to ask teachers to do something and to be able to meet a certain expectation. It's another to provide them with the support they need. So when I started hearing about we don't have the textbooks or the resources or the programs that they know would work, but that wasn't in a previous budget, those were the things I prioritized and said, okay, if we're asking our students to achieve here and we're asking our staff to perform here, we better make sure we give them all the support they needed. So you're going to see in this budget that there is money allocated for the textbooks, science kits, online programs, subscriptions, and of course professional development, because you can't roll out a program or expect staff to perform if you don't provide professional development. That is all here. And then one of the biggest ones, especially in terms of the parents' concern, is maintaining class sizes. We wanted to make sure that even though we did make some tough cuts in terms of staff, we did not do anything that was going to affect the class sizes. So the students will remain, our class sizes have averaged about 18 or 19 per class, and the projection for next year will be 18 or 19 again. We did not do anything that would warrant a change in that. And now I'm going to kick it over to Wally, who's going to go through more of the money issues and what's driving our budget.
So a budget is based off of things that are going to drive it. And a lot of the things that drive the budget cost a lot. Some of the costs that dictated where we're going to spend money are our labor costs. We have a new 4-year contract, and those percentages are in excess of the 2% tax levy cap. So that's a budget driver. Health benefit costs. The district was lucky in years past not to see the increases that other districts have. We're in a BMed program, separate from the state plan. And this year, unfortunately, our health care costs are 16%. So that, again, that's way above the 2% cap. We were lucky in previous years to stay below that, but the 3-year average that we have now is 11.5% increase, whereas the state average is 11.8. So we caught up with the market trend, and unfortunately, the health sector is trending upward. So expenses on the healthcare side are going up and dictate the budget. Special education, all costs associated with special ed are extremely high, and they have to be accounted for, especially out-of-district placements and out-of-district services in addition to those placements. Operation and maintenance, we have increased energy costs this year, and specifically the electric market is roughly around 20 to 25% supposed to be an increase. And the reason for that is New Jersey does not produce enough electricity, so we have to outsource it, and outsourcing that costs money. Ways we're going to try to combat that is we're doing a boiler project, so we're looking to reduce some energy costs by creating some efficient products. We're also doing a lighting upgrade in the district this summer, which is hopefully going to reduce the cost. We're switching everything over to LED. A lot of the lights in the district are original, very old, and the cost to the district will be very minimal because there are a lot of rebates from PSE&G for this program, and we're expecting an energy and maintenance savings of roughly $20,000 to $25,000 a year in energy costs by doing this. Technology. Technology, you buy something, 2 days later, it's obsolete, and you have to buy something new. So technology costs are always going to be recurring in the school district, networking, textbooks, platforms. So these are the big things that we start off with when preparing the budget, and then we start going down from there. The way to combat that is we do some efficient things. We are part of a BMed program, which is our employee medical fund, health benefits fund. Historically, they provide better rates than the state health benefit plan, so we opt to stay with them because they provide a good service. We're part of cooperative purchasing programs. What they do is essentially bid for us, so they take the bidding process out of it, and at times can provide lower rates and discounted rates than if we had gone out on our own. We're also part of an E-rate program, which is for a technology reimbursement for networking, some type of equipment, and for phone usage and data. We're part of an energy cooperative where we buy our energy from. New Jersey School Insurance Group is our insurance broker that goes out there and researches the market for best coverage and rates. That's another way we're trying to cut down our costs. We do have a shared service with the town where they provide some services at a reduced or no cost to us, which is highly beneficial. And transportation, we're part of a cooperative that do the bidding for us for transportation routes, and they also provide shared routes, which reduce the cost because we're splitting the cost of a bus with other districts. So what everybody wants to know is, what is this going to cost us tax-wise? So I start off with the tax levy, and the tax levy is going to be a 3.7% increase from the prior year. So how's that possible with a 2% cap? The reason is per the statute, there is a 2% cap, but the state does allow some allowances and adjustments. So we were eligible for two allowances and adjustments this year, and one was an enrollment adjustment based on our enrollment forecast, and a health benefits adjustment due to the increase in health benefits costs. So the way the tax levy is calculated is you take the prior year's tax levy of 14.3, you add in the enrollment adjustment of 62,000, then the 2% is multiplied against that. So that's going to be the 2% tax levy. Added into that is the healthcare adjustment, and that's a one-time adjustment, so it's not compounded every year like the enrollment adjustment is. So that'll make up the 3.7%. That's how that's derived. So how does that affect the homeowner? All right, so this is an example of what it's going to cost the average home in Fairfield. So if you look at the 2025 column, the cost of an average home, that is calculated by taking the tax levy, not the tax levy, the estimated net valuation, and dividing that by the amount of parcels in the borough. That will give you the average cost of a home. And when you apply the tax levy to that average cost, you will get the annual tax on that average home of $2,470. And that's just the school tax. That's not the entire tax. So that's why that number looks lower than what you're probably paying in your regular tax bill. If you take that, compared to last year, it represents a $57 increase from prior year, so it's not a substantial increase. Coming out to $4.81 a month on the average home. So you will see in tonight's agenda, this is going to be the resolution that's presented. So I talked a lot about the tax levy, which is the 14 million, but that's only the local share. The entire budget is 18 million, representing the operating budget of 17 and special revenue fund, which are grants that we receive. So the total budget is 18 million, but I'll go into more detail about the operating budget in the next few slides. So revenue dictates what you could budget. It's the driver. Revenue controls your expenses. You can't budget more than you're going to receive. So if you look at local taxes represent 84% roughly of the budget. That's basically where all our funding comes from. We do receive some state aid. We did receive a 3% cut in state aid this year, like many districts in the state. It came out to $30,944, so it was a little significant, but not too much to hurt us. The budgeted fund balance of legal reserve for 653, that was a legal reserve per the audit, and if you go back to the November audit presentation, that was explained in detail by our auditors. That's money that was put aside that we couldn't spend it at the time. It was a legally restricted reserve, but in this year's budget, it has to statutorily be brought in, so we brought that into this year's budget. The fund balance of 41,000, that was used to plug the bunch to balance revenue expenses. We needed a couple extra things on the expense side. In order to make that happen, we needed to draw down from our fund balance. In prior year, we drew down 78,000. This year, we only needed 41. And then the rest, capital reserve withdrawal, that's for projects that I'm going to go into later in the presentation, but that's the amount we're taking out of our reserves to fund those projects. So we don't have to go out for bond or go out for a referendum or anything on that. And then the remaining ones are just some forecasted revenues that we anticipate that we do every year. So now the budget side. If you look at the bottom, the total matches the revenue side, and it's broken out by different categories. So you have general and special education instruction make up the bulk of the cost. Employee benefits, that includes health benefits, which again are extremely high, contractual obligations, and statutory requirements like FICA and those kind of benefits. Support services, that looks like a very big number, but it makes up a lot of things inside that number. So in there you have healthcare, which is nursing. You have occupational, physical, and speech therapies. You have any extraordinary circumstance services, which are one-to-one aides. And we do have about 16, I think, paras and one-to-one aides in the district. Guidance, CST, and media services are also in there, so that's why that's a pretty high number. Operation and maintenance of plant, that's building and grounds, so to speak. You know, keep the building operational, cleaning, repairs, electric, gas, transportation costs, administrative costs are superintendents, principals, business offices, legal expenses, auditing expenses, stuff like that. Transportation costs are our regular and special ed costs. Capital outlay is for any capital improvements that the district's looking to do, and I'll get to that in the later slide, but that is money that you're gonna see is drawn down from the reserves to fund those projects. Out-of-district tuition, that's a big expense for a lot of districts in the state and a very touchy subject because, you know, you have to budget for that in anticipation of possibly sending out students or requiring those services. So in our district, that's made up of some charter school placements and students that are placed in private schools for the disabled. So that's, unfortunately, that's a very high tuition rate, and we bear the burden of that. And the food service piece is the portion of the free and reduced that we are obligated to pay. So this gives you a visual on where the money is. So if you look at salaries and benefits, that represents about 70% of the budget. And that's, you know, we can't really change that. A lot of that's contractual. We need that. We need those services, which only leaves us with about $5 million of other expenses. Now that other encompasses everything. You know, that encompasses gas, electric, liability insurance, all maintenance of the facilities. You know, anything that's instrumental in just getting the doors open. That's what that other is. So, you know, if you look at it, we really don't have a lot of money to spend on the other stuff versus the contractual salaries and benefits. Now, if you break it out, that 17 million by major categories, and these are categories that the state dictates, you have student costs, facility costs, and employee and admin benefits costs. Student costs represent 60% of the budget, which is pretty good. So a lot of money is getting channeled to the students. It's getting towards the education, into the classroom. Again, facilities costs include the capital improvements. That's why that number is high. So if you take out that 1.5 million of improvements we're looking at, that's only down to about a little less than 1.5 million to operate the school, to basically open the doors and keep the place running. And then the admin and benefits, again, benefits are statutoral and the health benefits. Admin is central office, business office, again, legal fees, auditing fees. This is assigning a number to that pie chart, just so you can get an idea, because, you know, like, what makes that up? And again, these numbers will translate to previous slides. There's the 17 million. There's a regular special ed instruction, breaks out further with basic skills, bilingual. Again, the tuition that goes out of district, charter schools a piece of that as well. Student services, again, that's a lot of things that fall into that student services that I addressed a little bit earlier. This is the admin and benefit piece. So the benefits are 3.3 million of that, that number, of that 4 million. 1.2 is central administration, which is, again, salary, superintendent's office, business office, and principals. And this will give the capital expenditure piece of that. So again, half of the cost is maintenance and repairs of the building, energy costs. The other half is we're doing a capital improvement. So that's why that number looks high. It's what only half of that is actually what we're using to run the building. Oh, I went one too far. Okay, so this makes up the capital improvements that we're looking to do in 25, 26. In Churchill, we're looking to do a boiler replacement. And part of that boiler, we're looking to do a direct install program with PSE&G, and I think I spoke about this in a previous meeting, where PSE&G will give us rebates towards that program. So we're anticipating anywhere from $250 to $275 reimbursement towards the project once it's complete. The electrical is just a piece of that in anticipation that we need to upgrade services for the boiler. If we go to Stevenson, we have an MDF room upgrade going in this summer. We did the similar thing in Churchill this past summer. We're running that through E-rate, so we're able to get some of that money back through E-rate. It takes a little while, but it should offset some of the costs. And the bottom one, the recreation improvement grant, that is something we touched on last meeting. It was an $87,000 award. So the Finance Committee, Building and Grounds Committee, and Mr. Gupta and I will sit down and decide what's the best way to spend that. Are we going to do the full project, or are we going to scale it back a little bit? And then if you move down with looking at, speaking with the facilities director, we do have some doors that are aging out. They do get a lot of use, and we're looking to do an upgrade every year to upgrade 4 or 5 doors around the district, just so we could spread the cost out over years rather than try to do a massive project all at once. There are some professional fees associated with the recreation improvement. We're not sure if we're going to need that depending on the scope of the project. We do have some debt service assessment. That is money that when the state funds a project, this is basically the state assigns that expense to principal and interest to other districts, and it comes off your state aid. So we just have to account for that in the capital portion of the budget. It's nothing we're going to spend. It's just the state saying, here, we did a project, we gave you some money, now you got to pay it back. And they spread that out over years. And the total facility construction is about 1.5 million. 1.1 is coming out of that capital reserve that I mentioned earlier. 328 is coming out of that legal reserve of the 653. We're using a portion of that to fund some of the capital projects. The remaining of that is going back into the regular budget. So moving to the future, there are a few things we'd like to improve. Classroom and office floors in Stevenson and Churchill, some of them need upgrade. There's some carpeting, there's some older flooring. We like to bring that and start repairing that as needed. There is a need for an HVAC upgrade at Stevenson. I believe the project was started years ago, but it never materialized. So we're looking to do a little at a time and get everything up to spec there. The Churchill cafeteria gym floor definitely needs an upgrade. It's in some rough condition, so that's going to be a priority next year, is to try to figure out how we want to address that and what's going to be the best solution for that area. And then the Churchill recreation area, we're hoping that that grant is available next year, so we could write and do some improvements over at the Churchill recreation area like we're trying to do over at Stevenson. We do have a proposal on this budget, and as Mr. Feedy had mentioned on several occasions in past board meetings, that we're going to have to start doing these small proposals in order to get these services into the district. So what we're looking at is a $359,000 question that will be on the ballot in November, and what we're trying to do is get 3 classroom aides, a special education teacher, and a guidance counselor. So when you break this down, and again, using the formulas in the other slide about what's this going to cost me, what's this going to cost the taxpayer, we're looking at $4.95 a month. So $60 a year for the average taxpayer in town to have these services provided in the district. So it's not a large cost to the taxpayer, but it will make a significant impact to the district with services. And Mr. Gupta and I and the board spoke about this, and we felt that this was necessary, and this was the route we wanted to take with that. And thank you for attending. This information will be all posted on the website tomorrow and submitted. The final budget, if it passes tonight, will be submitted to the county office for approval, and then we just start moving forward with that. So, thank you.
Thank you very much, Wally. Thank you, Ryan. For those of you that were here last year, you'll see that this year's presentation was a lot more detailed, thanks to Mr. Lindsley, Mr. Gupta, and Joe for being along the way, being on finance. Joe chairs finance, and I just kind of sit along and listen to what he has to say. But Wally definitely went above and beyond, and hopefully broke it down to really explain exactly what we're doing and what our goals are. And to say we're out of the woods is definitely premature, but we feel like we're heading in the right direction. And that 495 based on $530,000, 530 is probably unrealistic. Obviously, the real estate in town is doing very well, so you could pretty much figure between a $5 or $10 increase, which is still minimal considering to the benefits that it brings to the district. So, please take that in consideration. And if you have any questions in regards to that question, we'll be more than happy to address them. With that being said, I'd like to open up non-agenda items only. Public comments, non-agenda items? Absolutely.
That ballot question at the end, that's completely reasonable. But I was wondering, the 3 aides, now are they just to have on staff? Will they be IEP specific? Are we going to kindergarten?
Thank you.
The aides will always be used. Priority is when it's required, right? So we can have the intention of, okay, we're going to bring them back and we're going to use them in a specific area. And which we always need the aides. But when it comes, we'll never be able to specify they're going to be for kindergarten, they're going to be for 5th grade, they're going to be at Churchill. Because as soon as a student comes with an IEP that needs a one-on-one aide, that aide is going. And that's exactly, if you remember what happened with the kindergarten aides a while back, where those 3 had to be moved to an area where the law required them to be. So they will always be pulled there, so it's impossible to specify where exactly they'll be.
Makes sense. And then the guidance counselor, is that per school or for the whole district to share? It's like one guidance counselor, right?
Yes.
Where would that guidance counselor?
Ideally, that would be a shared guidance counselor. Yes.
Makes sense. All right.
No, good question.
Thank you.
Formally, Nicole Sudol. I know it.
Christina Brewery, 148 Horseneck Road. Essex Fells last month put on, recommended by their superintendent, to change the preschool floor program to a full day and start getting $8,000 instead of possibly consider that for the upcoming school year, just because it is impractical for parents who work, because it is in the afternoon, and it does not make sense to any two-parent working families, dropping my daughter off at 12:15 in the afternoon and for 2 hours and 45 minutes, leave at 3 o'clock. So I need someone in the morning to do that part and then get her. Kind of makes no sense. So Essex Fells, I hope Fairfield can possibly follow suit with that.
It's definitely something that we can look into and discuss and see if there's any, see if there's an opportunity for it, or, maybe poll a general need, on how many people would be interested. I think that would probably be the first thing that we would do.
At the library, I see like the other 4-year-old parents, and I know the moms that stay at home are obviously able to have that opportunity. And I'm paying extra money for daycare instead of the money going towards the Fairfield schools to fund Fairfield. I'm now funding daycare. So the money could possibly come this way instead of
We would love to do that, but space is the problem. We don't have the space, so we take in one group and then the space is emptied, and then so the restrictions on a lot of our programming is space. And, a referendum was proposed, a few, I don't know how long ago was to try to fix some of those situations, but in the current situation, like you see, we have trailers. Space is a very restricting resource right now, so I can tell you right now, the main reason why we can't do that the full day is because of the space. Yeah, but definitely something we want to look towards.
Any other questions? Questions for agenda items only? Anyone have anything? Okay. Committee reports? Yes.
I was just going to touch on the budget presentation. Thanks to Wally and Ryan. Their first year, obviously, they put a lot of effort into that. They knew coming into this district the challenges we faced, so kudos to them. Obviously, costs go up every year.
Yeah.
This is nothing that anybody's shocked about. I think what should be pointed out is that 3.7% increase. When I first joined the board, one of the first exercises I did, it was clear that those adjustments aren't something that just Wally magically found because he's a genius, right? These were available in the past, and they weren't taken advantage of, okay? So these are things that put you in this situation, and we need to be more advantageous when we take a look at our budget and say, okay, 2% is nice, we'll keep taxes low, but also this is available, and we should take it before we're behind. That goes in line with the ballot question, that goes in line with not taking money from fund balance every year to cover certain recurring expenses. That's the thought process, and that's the plan, and, so far, we're headed down that path. Cap expense, they knew coming into it that we were light. We're going to use the money, that's taxpayer money, we should be using it for the schools, and we will. That plan's in place. Obviously, the ballot question, that was a great question before, but every year, it's special education costs us more money, so we have to be ahead of that. Let's be ahead of, we're going to have to spend more money in special ed. Unfortunately, some things, I don't want to be negative, because that was a great presentation, but I am here to make sure everybody's aware of the things we have to watch out for, and things that I am aware of, and we're aware of, and some things that we're not aware of. And let's face it, those things can happen, like that healthcare adjustment was
Substantial.
mind-blowing. That was substantial. But out of district's going to continue to go up. There is something out there about a preschool mandate, which means that'll be a cost to us. Forget about just offering it. Now it'll be an actual mandate. Our friend, Mr. Trump, he's doing some things. He comes in with his machete and he just starts cutting left and right. We do have Fed funds in our budget. Okay, it's 200,000, but 200,000 is just shy of 2% of what we increase here. State funds, we lost 35,000. That's a decent number. Maybe next year it could be more. Who knows? It could be less. What is our free and reduced lunch percentage? Because that's another thing that if we go over a certain percent, we could have a cost.
We're below the threshold, but
Yeah.
We're creeping up, right? So yeah, so these are just things that they're out there, folks. So let's be happy while we can, but we got to be we have to be ready. That's just my cautious optimism is always going to be there, but I think you guys did a great job. and another year, hopefully we'll say the same thing.
Yeah, and Joe, you as well, obviously, a big part of, the budget and your knowledge of spreadsheets and numbers is obviously apparent. And to touch on something that Nicole asked and Joe touched on with Wally, we really thought long and hard about the questions. And there was a lot of dialogue and conversations about what is the forever need. And unanimously, the board, with the guidance of our superintendent, came up with the aides and the guidance counselor, because it seems like no matter what, we're running into a shortage, right? So when you look at the constant, that's the constant right now. So it's important to, like Joe said, for a couple dollars a month to really just keep building, not just, one question, but year after year. And that's what allows us 5 or 6 or 7 years from now to be extremely fiscally strong. And hopefully Joe's still here and Wally's still here and Ryan.
And if you talk to
Other
people, it's
board
not gonna,
members.
like we said many
Yeah.
times, it won't be every year.
No.
We're not gonna look to have a question every year, because that's not even fair. We'll do our best to just be conservative with what we spend, but for now, it'll be this year. And by the next one, Ryan will have 3 years under him, and maybe it'll be more surgical as to what we need, not just a blanketed, not that it's not important. Special ed's not important, but maybe it'll be something that'll be for gen ed and special ed. And one of the things that I did mention in the previous, not the meeting prior to this, but before that, was that we were going to do 2 questions, and one of them be a one-time expenditure. That was turned down, which I didn't know that could actually happen. That was the county turned that down, or the state?
The county.
Yeah, so basically, because we have the money in our CapEx, they wouldn't let us put it on a ballot. So just in case anybody was still thinking about that, we haven't pulled every lever correctly. I guess we missed that one. But it is what it is. So that's all I have.
Anyone have anything else under committee reports?
Very quickly.
Sure.
Just very briefly, the HSA is holding their fundraiser on May 15th. It's going to be casino night. The theme is Havana Nights. Tickets are on sale until May 5th of this month, so please come out and support them if you can. It's going to be a really great night, and all the money goes back to our students. They work really hard, and they raise a lot of money, and we get a lot of great things for our kids. So please come out on May 15th. Also, the CPAC committee, they've been meeting, I guess an executive committee has been meeting with them, and they're posting resources on their Facebook page, on their Instagram page, and they really want people to take an interest and take a look at that. And they are also going to have a meeting on May 7th, which is following the HSA meeting. So the HSA meeting will be first, and the CPAC meeting will follow that. So hopefully, we'll get a big turnout for that. They do a lot of great things and a lot of great information they put out there, so please try to come.
On the HSA, we say this every time it's brought up, and unfortunately, it's not brought up enough or as often as it should. But the HSA, it's just, it's a constant grind what they do for this district. And a lot of times it goes unnoticed because a lot of it's behind the scenes. So if you can come out and support in May, the HSA would greatly appreciate it. We throw numbers around quite often, and you can't say enough to an organization that donates, upwards of $100,000 a year directly back to the kids, right? And like I said, a lot of it is behind the scenes. They don't have these large events that often, so if we can get everyone in the community to come out, that would be fantastic. With that being said, anyone else on committee reports? Okay. Finance?
Okay, page 4. The following finance motions are made at the recommendation of the superintendent of schools. Anything placed on this agenda, items 1 through 8, will be voted upon in one motion. I'd like to motion items 1 through 8.
May I have a second?
Second?
Roll call?
Ms. Jandoli,
Yes.
Mr. Feedy,
Yes.
Ms. Street,
Yes.
Ms. Altai,
Yes.
and Mr. DePascal.
Yes.
The following administrative motion is made at the recommendation of the superintendent and schools. Anything placed on this agenda, item 1, will be voted upon in one motion. I so move.
May I have a second?
Second.
May I roll call?
Ms. Jandoli,
Yes.
Mr. Feedy,
Yes.
Ms. Street,
Yes.
Ms. Altai,
Yes.
and Mr. DePascal.
Yes.
Following personnel motions are made at the recommendation of the superintendent of schools. Anything placed on this agenda, items 1 through 5, will be voted upon in one motion. I so move.
We have to pull 5P.
Hold on, we're
So
going to
we'll
table.
only be voting on 1 through 4.
Okay, we're going to table 5P. So anything from 1P to 4P. May I have a second?
We have a second?
Second.
We have a motion?
Ms. Chandoli?
Roll call? I apologize.
Okay, Ms. Chandoli?
Yes.
Mr. Feedy?
Yes.
Ms. Street?
Yes.
Ms. Altai?
Yes.
And Mr. DePascal?
Yes.
The following policy motions are made at the recommendation of the superintendent and school. Anything placed on this agenda, we're only going to be voting on 1 through 3. 4, 5, and 6 are going to be tabled until next meeting. So again, we're voting on 1, 2, and 3. I so move.
May I have a second?
Second.
Roll call?
Ms. Chandoli?
Yes.
Mr. Feedy?
Yes.
Ms. Street?
Yes.
Ms. Altai?
Yes to numbers 1 and 3, abstain to 2.
Mr. DePascal?
Yes.
At this point, it goes back to you, Ann.
Thank you very much. I'll say it again, public comments on non-agenda items only. With that being said, there's none. Next meeting, be it resolved that the next meeting will be held in person on May 29th, 2025, public work session beginning at 6 PM, followed by executive session with public session resuming at approximately 7:30 at the Fairfield Municipal Building. May I have a motion?
Motion. Second.
Roll?
Ms. Chandoli?
Yes.
Mr. Feedy?
Yes.
Ms. Street? Ms. Altai?
Yes.
And Ms. DePascal?
Yes, thank you very much, and enjoy the evening.
Thank you.